Welcome to The Explainer. Let's just jump right into this. Today we're looking at a hilarious, kind of relatable, but ultimately cautionary tale about domestic survival, incredibly stubborn in-laws, and one family's absolute refusal to sleep indoors. It's a story that takes something super common, I'm just trying to save a few bucks, and stretches it into this epic, bordering on absurd battle of wills.
So how much is a good night's sleep actually worth to you? I ask this right off the bat because the family in today's story pushes this exact question way past normal limits, all for the sake of savings. I mean, imagine completely sacrificing your comfort, your rest, and honestly your sanity just to get a slightly lower monthly bill. Sounds crazy, right? But wait until you see how extreme frugality makes people do some unbelievably bizarre things.
Act 1. The Outdoor Sleeping Obsession. Okay, so here is the setup. Our protagonist is a daughter-in-law named Payal, and she is stuck in this completely wild situation. Her in-laws, Sheila and Ramesh, have this strict, non-negotiable household rule. Everybody has to sleep on the open roof, every single night. The in-laws insist they're just soaking up the natural ambiance and the cool breeze, right? But then you have Payal. For her, it is a cramped, mosquito-infested nightmare. She's just totally miserable and desperately wants nothing more than to sleep in her own real bed downstairs.
Now you'd think when the heavy monsoon rains hit, that would be the end of it, and they'd all finally go inside. But nope. The mother-in-law, Sheila, flat out declares, sleeping inside is nowhere in our dictionary. So instead of going to their bedrooms, she forces the entire family to cram all their mattresses onto this tiny little balcony just to wait out the rainy season.
Act 2. Payal's sabotage attempts. So being squished on this tiny balcony, literally getting kicked in her sleep by her in-laws, that is it for Payal. She decides she is going to launch a full-scale covert war to force everyone back inside. She comes up with this 5-step escalation of just pure chaos. She starts small with fake bugs, moves up to local wildlife, dabbles in the supernatural, goes full theatrical witch, and then finally resorts to just ruining the beds entirely. She's doing everything she can to make this balcony psychologically and physically unlivable. But, things don't exactly go to plan. Her first few strikes are total disasters. First, she plants a fake leech. Well, Sheila just casually picks it up with a piece of paper and tosses it. Gone. Then, Payal points out a live lizard. The thing actually drops right onto Sheila's chest, but does she panic? No way! She just grabs it by the tail and hurls it away. Payal even lights this overwhelmingly smoky mosquito coil, but the family just sleeps right through the choking smoke while Payal is left wide awake with a massive headache. 0. That is exactly how maybe family members woke up when Payal, who is completely out of ideas for physical pests by the way, decides to blast terrifying, shrieking ghost sounds on her phone in the dead of night. They literally slept like logs right through an audio track of a fake haunting. I mean, their dedication to staying on this balcony is practically supernatural in itself. At this point, Payal realizes she's got to go big or go home. Well, inside the home. She actually dresses up in a white sari to look like a terrifying witch. She stands over her sleeping family in the pitch black, screaming that she's going to drink their blood. She is 100% expecting them to wake up in mortal terror and finally run inside. But the whole thing backfires so spectacularly. Instead of running away, her absolutely fearless mother-in-law grabs a heavy terracotta flower pot and just launches it straight at the witch, hitting Payal right in the leg. As Payal is limping away in pure agony, Sheila is sitting there proudly bragging, saying, "That was the work of my left hand. No one can escape me." So Payal is injured, totally humiliated, and still stuck sleeping outside. So defeated and literally limping, Payal tries one last super basic trick. She intentionally dumps water all over the mattresses and blames it on the rain blowing in. She figures, okay, they definitely can't sleep on wet beds. But Sheila just tells her to wipe the floor and put down fresh, dry mats. That's it. Payal is completely outmaneuvered. She totally gives up on her sabotage and just leaves her fate to the universe. Act 3. The climax and nature's wake-up call. Okay, so right after Payal throws her hands up and surrenders, nature decides to step in with a massive reality check. A severe thunderstorm rolls in during the middle of the night. We're talking howling winds, flashing lightning, the whole shebang. And suddenly, a heavy municipal electricity pole actually snaps and crashes right onto the balcony where they are all sleeping. The concrete wall barely stops it from crushing them. They survive, but literally only by an absolute miracle.
So the dust settles, they've survived this crazy near-death experience, and everyone is obviously super shaken up. And it's right in this vulnerable moment that the real reason behind this whole bizarre outdoor sleeping obsession finally comes out. Because, as it turns out, it was never actually about the fresh air or the beauty of the monsoon.
The parents finally confessed their massive secret. They weren't sleeping outside to enjoy nature. They were doing it for one reason and one reason only: to avoid turning on the indoor ceiling fans and the AC. This entire charade, the cramped balcony, fighting off lizards, battling literal monsoons, was just a convoluted plot to save a little bit of money on their monthly electricity bill. Unbelievable, right?
I mean, let's just look at the true cost of their frugality here, because the math is wild. Their goal was saving a little on electricity, but the actual cost was nearly getting crushed by a falling pole. They claimed they wanted fresh air, but the result was massive sleep deprivation. They wanted to be frugal, but they ended up covered in mosquito bites and left their balcony doors wide open all night, basically rolling out the red carpet for thieves.
Thankfully, the family does finally learn their lesson. After literally staring disaster in the face, they admit that risking their lives, getting terrible sleep, and leaving their house wide open to burglars is absolutely not worth saving a few rupees. So they all agree to abandon the balcony and happily move back indoors to the safety and comfort of their own bedrooms. And Payal finally gets her good night's sleep.
Which really brings us to a final thought to leave you with today. Being mindful of your expenses is great, obviously, but this story is such a perfect example of the crazy blind spots we can develop. When does trying to save a little bit of money start costing you a whole lot more in stress, health, or even your physical safety? It's definitely something to chew on the next time you find yourself going to extremes just to avoid a minor expense. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. And hey, stay safe out there.